Hello everyone, welcome to a DSP video. We're gonna be talking about his furi impressions. Now before we get into this video, I just want to say this right here now. I know it's kind of weird to bring it up here, but my Zelda Endure video I did is copyright claimed, so that's why there's ads on it. I don't want people to think that, I had monetization on. Obviously, I don't have it on. I showed it back a few videos ago. I think it was during the E3. So yeah, obviously the Zelda one got flagged, so that's why you might see ads. So just turn ad blocker on. Just do that. But this hopefully won't. Hopefully. So we're gonna talk about his furi impressions. But let's go over to some of the hot comments. I didn't rage quit this game. I just lost my patience and didn't want to waste more time. If this is not a rage quit, I don't know what the hell is exactly. Exactly. He did rage quit it. It's a great game, and I'm saying this as a person who isn't into this type of style of difficult boss rush stuff. Oh, that seems to be gonna be long now. Keep the reviews coming. This isn't a review, but okay. Hey, bro, big fan. Yo, I heard on your stream that maybe it was TV lag on your dash delays. If it's that bad, that also can't help when you've played fighting games. Must explain all the times you get hit while you're doing nothing, but it still says counter. Okay. Even think I doubt it's his TV. I have an HD TV and I have not had these problems. Can't wait for Bill to be here for KOGaming. Yeah, I heard he was the best. Alright, let's get started. Let's get into this. By the way, I did play Furi. It's a pretty good game. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it for what it is. I'm not into boss rush mode type games, but I think the style is what caught me, and I like the gameplay of it a lot. So there you go.
What's going on, everyone? Phil here for KOGaming. And by chance, this past week, I found some free time in my schedule to check out a game that normally I probably would have glossed over. Now, incidentally, the game ended up being so unique and different from something that I'm used to playing, and actually sparked my interest so much that I wanted to make a video about it here on KOGaming to share my thoughts and opinions on it. Incidentally, this game is free for PS Plus subscribers in the month of July of 2016 if you have a PlayStation 4, so you may want to jump on and check it out for yourself if you're watching this video relatively close to when I release it. The game that I'm talking about is Furi, a game from an independent game studio called The Game Bakers, which is kind of funny name, and it has a unique combination of elements, being a boss rush style game with both bullet hell and melee combat mechanics, a unique art style, a really awesome soundtrack, and a lot of factors that make it absolutely unique, although I do feel the game has some shortcomings as well. So here's my impressions after playing it for several hours. Furi opens with the unnamed protagonist imprisoned in an undisclosed location. A jailer is torturing him constantly, and then somehow he gets free, runs at the jailer, and next thing you know, you've entered into the tutorial fight.
I like how it made it sound like a question, like, and somehow he gets free? But, yeah, I like how he kind of had this artificial, like, intro that's like, oh, Phil here, like, okay. And then he's like, oh, well, I found the spare time to play this game. Like, he wanted to play this game to get views, otherwise he wouldn't be playing anything. I mean, he was desperate. He was asking his fans what to play. He didn't even know what this game was about. Honestly, I'm surprised he hasn't thought of this, but he should do a series where every month he plays a PlayStation Plus free game. That would have been a great series, because that way people would know. Like, obviously, if it's a free game, you're gonna try it out regardless. But that still would have been a cool thing he could have done to his gaming channel. But he's never gonna do that.
of the game. Now, the game has both melee and projectile-style combat. By pressing square, you'll use slashes, and a combo of slashes if you repeatedly press it. If you hold square and release it, you'll do a charged melee attack that, if it connects, will lead into a combination of strikes and big damage. You also have a little hand blaster, which you can fire by holding in any direction with the right thumbstick, and by charging the right trigger and then aiming with the right thumbstick, you can use a charged projectile attack as well. The goal here is to use a combination of strikes and projectile attacks to whittle down the health of your enemy. Your enemy will actually have multiple stages of offense, and the way that you change between them is by whittling down their life bar until it's emptied. Then one of the little squares underneath their life bar will deplete, and then he'll get into the next stage of combat. You also have multiple lives, similar to the boss, where you have 3 little squares underneath your name. If at any time your health bar completely depletes, you'll lose one of those squares or extra lives, but then that phase of the boss fight, unfortunately, will restart completely from the beginning. So it's your goal to defeat all of the phases of the boss's attack before you run out of 3 lives. Now, the good news here is, if you do lose a life, but then you complete a phase of the boss's attack, you'll actually gain a life back. So it's basically an interesting take on a checkpoint system. Instead of having infinite life respawns and checkpoints at every single stage of the boss fight, you have to try to basically beat him with 3 lives that will regenerate every time that you kill one of the phases.
Remember this. Remember they said this.
Now, the one detriment here is that if you run out of all 3 lives and you got to the end or the final phase of the boss, you're going to have to restart all the way from the beginning of the fight. And that's kind of the gimmick and the goal of Fury.
The gimmick is if you get a game over, you have to start from the beginning of the boss fight. That's basically every single game that has come out. Even a game in 2016, they have that feature. It's not really a feature, it's kind of a gameplay thing. I mean, it's
at its core, you're going to try to fight these incredibly challenging and varied bosses, some of which are going to be more like bullet hell, spamming hundreds of projectiles at you while you try to dash and dodge around them. Some of them are going to be more straight up melee combat, where you're trying to dodge and parry their attacks so that you can counterattack properly, and basically get through them before you run out of your 3 lives. If you do, it could be pretty daunting and challenging to have to go back completely from the start and do it all over, especially in particular because some of these bosses have 6 phases of attack, so it can end up being a repeat of anywhere from 10 to 30 plus minutes of gameplay, especially if you had a tough time with that particular character.
Who cares?
You're one.
Honestly, the game has such a quick pace that you're never gonna be discouraged from trying again. You know, the worst that you'll get is that you'll just be like, okay, well, you know, I'm gonna try again tomorrow, or you might try again later. Because sometimes you might want to take a break. That's natural. It's okay to take a break, but it's just you don't need to throw tantrums and throw hissy fits like Phil did about losing this game, and having to start from the beginning. It's not that big of a deal because you learn the patterns. Like, you're supposed to die and start again. Like, if you've played the game and you mastered it, it shouldn't be hard. You should still be able to get through the boss fight easily. It's not that hard of a thing to do.
Ally in this boss rush gauntlet is a purple rabbit who you don't really understand, but he does disclose more information about his identity over the...
What's there to understand? He's just a guy with a purple helmet that's helping you. I mean, I didn't beat the game, so I don't want any spoilers. No spoils. But, it reminded me a lot of, Afro Samurai. It's kind of like Gino. I think that's his name. Gino? The one with the teddy bear mask. I can't remember the name. It's been a while since I've seen that anime, but, he reminds me of that. And, you know, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the final boss, actually, to be honest. But that's just my theory.
Course of the game. I won't do too much to spoil here, simply because that's one of the main focuses of the game, is to unravel the story and figure out who you are, why you're imprisoned, and who all these people are that you're actually fighting. It's pretty neat as it unfolds over the course of the game. After you fight a bunch of these bosses, it's just wash, rinse, and repeat, but the good news is that the bosses are varied enough that every time you fight a new one, it does kind of feel like almost a completely new game. And similarly to that, the art style of every stage is completely different. Some of them will actually look more nature-like or outdoorsy. Some of them will look more technological, almost like a sci-fi setting. One stage looked like a sewer. So they're all unique and different, with their boss fight styles pretty much matching up with each stage. It's pretty cool. It's almost like having a really complex version of Mega Man, where every boss is really unique and different and has crazy amounts of different combat styles. Now, to be fair and to be completely transparent, the game doesn't have any other gameplay. All you're ever doing is fighting these bosses, period. There is some story and plot exposition in between the bosses, but really all you need to do is press the X button, as your character will automatically walk through these stages as the plot unfolds until you hit the next boss, and then you'll initiate another fight. It is incredibly simple at its core, and it's nothing too complex. Quite honestly, if this game had traditional style checkpoints, and you could actually restart from every single phase of
traditional style checkpoints. What the fuck are those? And honestly, this is just a boss rush mode game. I mean,
boss fight, you could probably run through it in about 2 hours. A lot of the time-consuming gameplay of the game is going to be repeatedly replaying stages of boss fights to get back to that one stage that keeps hammering it in on you and that you're unable to pass until you finally figure out an effective strategy to get by it. For some people, this may feel challenging, and for others, it may feel frustrating. It's all going to depend on you and your own personal opinion.
But that's what challenge is. It's not supposed to let up. And I really hate when people say that games should be easier, or, you know, I really do feel that games should have a difficulty setting, like, you know, so people like DSP can play on easy mode, and then, you know, you have normal and hard. I don't like games that have no difficulty setting, because then it's like you have to go on the game's difficulty spike. Now, that could either mean that the game is just going to be very easy for a lot of people, or it's going to be very hard for other people. And I don't think there's a good balance by not having a difficulty setting. I don't know why a lot of games aren't, not a lot of games, but some games are dropping it, and I don't know why. Like, yeah.
So outside of the unique artistic style, and as well as the varied and challenging gameplay of Furi, one of the other things that are a strong positive is the unique soundtrack. I'm actually playing some of the music of the game in the background of this video right now.
Oh, great.
And you know what? Although most of it is techno, and if that's not your thing, you probably won't like it too much, I found myself really grooving out to the tunes, especially during some of the really high action combat when a lot of stuff was going on. Having some of this bumping kind of music in the background motivated me and kept me moving, and it really makes some of these fights feel more fast-paced and exciting. So I have to say 2 thumbs up for the soundtrack selection for the game. However, the game certainly wasn't all rainbows and roses. When I played this game, I really enjoyed the first few bosses, the variety of gameplay, how they were...
You know, this sounds more like a review. This doesn't really feel like an impression of it. You know? Like, it sounds like it's ready to give it a score.
All very different from each other, and how it basically required you to adapt your play style dependent on certain bosses. As I've already said, some bosses are very kind of melee style, up in your face, and you really have to learn how to parry their attacks with proper timing and or counterattack them to succeed, while other characters literally turn the game into a bullet hell, completely filling the screen with tons and tons of projectiles that you have to dodge around and or find a way to reflect back at them. And I love the variety of combat. But once you get about 5 to 6 bosses into the game, this is when it really starts to pick it up a notch. And unfortunately, this is where my love for this game kind of started to sour. Now, you could directly relate this to the fact that I am not necessarily a person that loves to replay a ton of gameplay if I die in a game. Listen, I grew up as a gamer in the 1980s and 90s. I had to do this tons and tons of times for 15 years when the game developers said they couldn't fit a lot of data on a game cartridge. So we have to not have any formal checkpoints. Wow. We have to have you replay all that gameplay so that there's a difficulty spike and or enough gameplay in a game.
See, this is the kind of person Phil is. He's the kind of guy that's like, it's like, don't know how to explain this. So you might have to bear with me on this. I'm sorry, but it's like if you had it's like the progression video games. Like he thinks that since we've come such a long way where we have checkpoints and all that, every game needs to have that. But it's like, but that doesn't mean that they should. And we should have more games that plays with this difficulty. Like I do feel that if this game had checkpoints where if you die, let's say like when the boss has like 3 little blocks left and you die and you start from there, that's gonna break the game. That's not gonna make it hard. It's not gonna make it fun. Like the entire point of this game is to make it challenging. It's like playing Dark Souls and then saying, they need an easy mode and then they need to soften the enemies and do all this kind of stuff. And it's like at that and at that point, it's not Dark Souls anymore. Like the design is built around that, and if you can't go with that design, then what are you doing playing this game? And Phil is just whining about how this game is being played, how this game is designed, and that is completely ridiculous. And it's silly and it's childish to even like whine to even criticize a game for that. Like I've gotten mad at Fury tons of times, but I dealt with it. I played it again and I got farther. The first boss gave me a lot of issues. I had a lot of issues with the first boss. I kept dying and then I stopped playing. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna stop playing. And then I got back into it and now I'm at the second boss. And the second boss is giving me a hard time, but I don't mind having to redo phases, because that to me is the fun of the game. It's fun whittling the health of the enemies all the way down. That's the point of the game.
A full purchase. But it's 2016, it's not 1986 anymore, and we no longer have those limitations. So for me, to play through anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes going through 5 phases of a boss, only to have 1 life left for the final phase, to have something happen that I've never seen before insta-kill me, and now having to redo that completely from the start, that's asking a lot, at least in my opinion. Now, there may be some gamers out there who love that, and they think that that's added challenge, and you need to get good at the game so that you don't have to replay it.
Oh my god, he made this video just to justify him rage quitting at the game. That's why this video exists. It's not to give him his impressions, it's to him to shout out why it's okay for him to rage quit at this game.
Amount of times, but for me, I like a game where at least if I'm learning a pattern and adapting on the fly, maybe on the second or third try, I can eventually get it. Now, keep in mind, there are games that I've played in the past that are incredibly difficult. I mean, I think we should...
But, like, if you're learning the patterns, then then you shouldn't have a problem replaying the boss. Like, what? He's just sour that he has to waste precious time of his... He has to waste precious time in his day to play this game. And it's like, what else are you doing, Phil? You don't have Ghostbusters to play. You deleted that game. You don't even want to continue that game for whatever reason. And now you don't want to continue this game. Yes, rage quit so many games this year. Like, I really do think that he's rage quitting games this frequently is because of the of his dwindling popularity. Like, I think that's finally getting to him, and instead of just addressing it, he's getting salty about it.
Bring up Dark Souls here being one of those style of games. But the difference between Dark Souls and Fury is that Dark Souls has other gameplay in between these grueling boss fights.
Yeah, let's compare a $60 purchase to a game that's, I think, $20? Whatever. Well, an indie title. You're gonna compare this to an indie title, okay.
Yeah, there may be a tough boss that...
Might as well compare Skullgirls to Street Fighter, even though Skullgirls is the best fighting game ever made.
It takes you 20 to 30 minutes to beat, but then you've got a span of maybe a half hour of fighting a variety of enemies, seeing new locations, and doing all kinds of different stuff outside of just fighting another grueling boss. In Fury, all you do is fight the grueling bosses. And so when you finally start to get pushed up against the wall with some of the tougher ones later on in the game, and you find yourself having to repeatedly do the same boss fight over and over and over from the start, that's when it seriously starts to test your patience as a gamer. Case in point,
Test your patience as a gamer.
the 7th boss of the game, named Blast, is a sniper-style character. So for the very first half of the fight, you're chasing her constantly through this big map as she tries to snipe you. After you finally track her down, you'll fight her for a little bit, but then she'll run away again. You'll have to chase her down again. And then finally, about halfway through the phases of this boss fight, you'll narrow it down to the center area of the stage, where finally the fight will be confined and she'll stop running. But then she changes her style into a more melee-based attack. Once you get into the melee class, it actually gets a little bit easier once you learn the timing of her attacks and you figure out how to parry everything. But then you head into the final stage of the fight. Now, some people probably have beaten this on the first try. I certainly am not one of those kind of gamers. This final phase is absolutely ridiculous. It's nothing like any of the phases of the fight before it. There's these waves of balls coming at you that you have to dodge through.
But that's every single boss. Like, honestly, when I got to the second boss, I knew she was going to do something like this. I knew every boss was going to have, when you get to the final phase, have these waves of stuff. It's not exclusive to certain bosses. Like,
while there's other waves coming off the sides of the screen, at the very same time, Blast is targeting in on you and sniping you. So you basically have to dodge 3 completely different things at once in order to survive, and this lasts over a minute. It just becomes a tour de force marathon of how long can you keep your sanity while you're consciously dodging 3 completely different style of attacks at once. It's incredibly difficult. Now, the first time that
that's the point. Think about it. Like, this whole thing has a very psychological style to it, and this is testing your patience and your mental capacity. This whole game is testing you. This is something that has been missing in video games for years. For years. I mean, yeah, there's games out there that still incorporate this type of gameplay. I'm not gonna say all games are not like that, but it's just we don't see a lot of it where you learn and you have to and the game is testing your skills every step of the way. Like, this is all stuff you've learned up to this point and is putting you to the test of your dodging mechanic, of your dodging skills, avoiding the sniper and all this stuff. Like, you should be able, theoretically, you should be able to withstand this because you've been through this before. That's the whole point of this game. The reason why Phil doesn't like it is because he can't do more than one thing. He can't multitask. He has a very one-track mind. He never can multitask, and you could pull up any gameplay of his that requires you to think, to have multiple thinking, multitasking, and he can't do it. And this is proof of it.
I fought this boss, I made it to this stage, and I died pretty quickly. I said, okay, let me go ahead and I'm gonna give it an old college try and restart from the beginning. The second time around, I failed a little bit, but I did finally get to this final stage, and I died almost immediately again, being you only get 3 tries in order to try to beat it, and once those 3 tries are up, you have to redo the boss fight from the start. So now I started to get really frustrated, especially because the first 2 stages of this fight are you having to completely chase this boss across the map. It pads the game and makes it longer because of the style of fight that this boss particularly is. After the third...
But if he was blazing through this game, he would complain that it's too short. I bet he would. You can never win with DSP. Never, unless you're Doom.
Attempt actually mastering the fight. I didn't even basically lose a life. I was rushing through it, destroying her, because now I fought her 3 whole times. I know all of these phases of the fight. I finally got back to the final stage with 3 full lives, and again, I was unable to survive this insane onslaught. And so finally, For 1/4 final time, I went through all of her phases again, almost perfecting them again, getting to the final stage and failing. And honestly and innately, I think this is where the huge flaw with this game exists. So ultimately, after 90 minutes of tackling this one boss, I literally had nothing.
I thought it was 40 minutes. Now it's 90? Huh. Okay, we might actually do a little field trip. Let's go to Eddie. Eddie B483. No. No, that's not. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. B. Wow. I can't figure it out. DSP. Rage. Quitting. Fury. I am a professional. Don't worry. Oh my god, really? Really? DSP Fury. There we go. There we go. Was it the 7th boss? Yeah, I think it's the 7th boss. Let's listen to this.
I already took damage. Why? Why'd I take damage again?
Wow.
I'm taking massive damage. I give up.
This is my moment. I prepared for it. You are not taking it away from
I got hit again. What the fuck?
Dude, this is like walking through
I'm
this
done. I
now.
only kill you 2 more times. That's it. It's over. Done. Fuck this. I'm done. I'm not doing it again. That's it. I'll give any game the old college try. This is just garbage. It's complete garbage. My dashes are delayed. And you know, every game that I play has delay, and it could be my TV. I can't necessarily fault the game because there's no way to test that. But the game is it requires such strict timing.
Guys,
and half the time I try to do a dash through a wave, it doesn't.
Guys, he needs a 4K TV. Run to his Patreon right now so he gets that 4K TV.
Doesn't work and I get hit. It's fucking bullshit, and I'm not redoing another. I'm not doing it. That's it. I did it 3 fucking times over and over. I've aced every fight until the end. I'm not doing the same 10 minutes of gameplay again to just fail again. Fuck this. Seriously, I'm done with it. Insanely archaic and bad game design. If you want to have a game like this in 2016, you have to have checkpoints. It's that simple. And don't give me the bullshit, but there are checkpoints because you have extra life. No, that's an extra life. An extra life is not a checkpoint.
Kidding me?
That's not the purpose of a checkpoint. Checkpoint is if you die, you restart there infinitely. So you can learn the pattern and keep playing from there. Not replaying another 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay or longer to get back to where you were. No, sorry. I understand what the game devs were going for.
No, you don't.
I like the game design, but not having checkpoints for this game 100% kills it. If you're going to make it that difficult, you need checkpoints. It's that simple. And so for me, it's like, you know, I'm upset because I want to play the game longer and I want to beat it, but I'm never going.
He's upset. Remember that. But he's not. This isn't a rage quit.
I'm just going to keep getting more frustrated and more impatient.
God, really?
And it's not going to allow me to concentrate after replaying this in 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay to get to that point. Seriously. I'm just done with it. I'm absolutely done with it. I can't. It's just wasting time. Again, this game mechanic made sense in the 1980s and 90s when you were making a game on a cartridge and you couldn't fit a lot of data on the cartridge.
Oh, it's cartridge
nonsense. So
nonsense.
let's artificially extend the difficulty and length of our game by making no checkpoints. Okay, it made sense back then. There was a technological limitation. 30 years later, you can't have the same limitation and have it as an excuse. You know?
But that's not an excuse. Them not having a checkpoint isn't an excuse. I don't know why he keeps thinking, oh, it's an excuse, guys. It's an excuse for why this game doesn't have... No, it's not because they don't have the capacity. The only thing you could probably say in this day and age would be that they didn't have the budget to do that. But even then, that's not the point of Fury. It's not to have a checkpoint system. It's not... They didn't have an excuse for it. It's part of the design.
You just can't. There's no justification besides, well, our game only has 8 or 10 bosses or however many, and if you had checkpoints, modern checkpoints that should be in every game, the game could be beaten in 90 minutes. Well, then that's the fault of the game designer. You should have made the game longer, not blame the player.
Should have made the game longer. This is an indie game that has a very set amount of like a budget. It has a small budget, and they want to have, you know, this many bosses, and they want, like, it's... This is pointless arguing.
Designer's fault. Sorry, and I just can't. I'm gonna lose my cool and not have fun with the rest of the game redoing the shit over and over. So, enough. Enough is enough.
Yet enough.
Alright, well, the bottom line is, the game's interesting, the game's unique, the game's different. I like what they were going for, and I think it's a...
By the way, R.I.P. Mannequin. R.I.P. He lived a healthy life holding this ball, and, he died. He died, everyone. He died tonight, and it makes me sad. Now, his brother, Big Mannequin, is now... He lost a brother, guys. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Everyone, wish your condolences to this guy. He lost his partner. That, or he's now forever a paralyzed person that will need to be in a wheelchair. It's tough, man. It's tough. I can't believe that it's over. It's over. This guy, like, his head is bobbling off.
Good first attempt, but if they were to make another game like this, but have more than just boss fights, right? Have other gameplay, and to have actual modern checkpoints, the game could be outstanding. They're not there yet, in my opinion. The kind of gamer I am, sorry. Sorry, to me, replaying the 10 to 15 minutes is not worth it. I did it 3 fucking times, and I've mastered every phase of the fucking boss fight, besides the end, which is garbage.
Garbage.
Enough is enough. That's where I draw the line.
Garbage.
Alright, well, that is it for my gameplay of Fury. And boy, did it cause fury in me, right?
Wow.
At least I could say it's definitely a good free game. I mean, free on PS Plus, holy shit, it's really outstanding for a free game, but the frustration and stress level for me is not worth it to continue on at this point. Alright.
Wow. Is that it?
Alright. Well, that's it, everybody.
Okay, let's get back to the show.
Thing to show for it. I could master all of the first 5 phases of the fight, but every single time I got to the final phase, I almost died within 60 seconds, and there was really no way for me to learn besides to continuously replay 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay that I'd already mastered over and over and over to get to this final phase of the fight and adjust. And after 90 minutes of this, I said, enough is enough, and I turned off the game for good. And sadly, I think that's what's going to happen with this style of game. And again, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of gamers out there who love this giant difficulty curve and spike, and they don't mind sitting there for hours replaying over and over in order to master the game. I'm certainly not one of those gamers, and being the fact that every boss fight in the game is going to be like this, and there's no kind of gameplay to break up the monotony of those repetitive boss fights over and over and over, this game is just not my cup of tea. I actually love the art style, I was getting into the story,
spoiler.
I love the soundtrack, and when you actually are able to best these bosses within a few different tries, it's a lot of fun. But when you get up against the wall against a boss that's wasting 90 minutes of your time, and you can master 5 out of 6 phases, but fail repeatedly at the last one because it's so cheap, that's where I draw the line. And ultimately, I actually think a game like Fury could be very successful if, and
It
only
had
if,
checkpoints.
the game actually had a bigger budget, was able to be developed for a longer amount of time and have more features such as, a la Dark Souls, combat between those boss stages to break up the monotony of the game. Maybe I wouldn't have minded so much going through the 5 of 6 stages over and over if I knew at least there'd be some fun, different kind of stuff coming up, but there wasn't. I knew.
These are such excuses. Because he's pulling up all these excuses why this game isn't as good. Like, it's not even a hyped game. Fury isn't hyped. But it's a good game. It's fun, and you know it's great that it has challenge.
If I really toughed it out for another hour to finally get past this final phase, I would just be fighting another grueling, challenging, and ultimately patience-testing boss, and there's only so much of that I can put up with. This game desperately cries for modern checkpoints. If this game resumed maybe
It desperately cries for no.
halfway through the boss fight so as not to waste 15 minutes
To avoid frustration. Okay, no game should be designed to avoid frustration, because frustration is subjective. Like, people have different levels of frustration. Phil gets frustrated easily. He's very easy to frustrate, so.
of my time every time that I lost to the final phase, I probably would have found myself persevering and going back to complete it. But I am not going to continuously waste hours of my time just to get to a super cheap instant death style phase. It's just not worth it. And I think that's the problem ultimately with a game like this, is that I understand what they're going for. The reason that
But see, this is like, he's repeating himself. He's just beating around the bush. He's not really, not beating around the bush, but he's just repeating himself. He's saying the same thing he said like 10 minutes ago. This video doesn't need to be 17 minutes long, because he's just rambling. Like, I do that in my videos. That's why they're so long sometimes. But this is just needless rambles.
game developers, the game bakers made the game like this is because they knew it was a low budget game. They knew it was a game that
I thought that was great. The exclamation mark was like inside the KOGaming logo, so that was really distracting. That distracted me when I was looking at
was
that.
short and was only going to be boss fights. So let's make no checkpoints so you have to replay the game and pad it for length. But for me, that's not acceptable, and that's not legitimate gameplay. That's just padding the game for padding's sake, and leaving out a modern game mechanic like checkpoints that are a no-brainer is just absolutely frustrating. So ultimately, I find Fury to be a mixed bag. I love a lot of things about it, and I dislike one or two very particular things about it. I'm happy that I played it, and right now, as I said, being a free PS Plus game for the rest of July 2016, if you have not gotten it yet and have a PS4, I recommend you give it a download just for the hell of it to play it and see if it is your cup of tea. For me, after getting about halfway through the game, I had enough, and my patience was tested to its limits. Even being able to beat games like Dark Souls in the past, I just certainly could not get through this one, because honestly, I don't know if there would have been a payoff. You know, going through all these grueling bosses and not really seeing an open...
The payoff is beating them. Like, when you beat them, you get a payoff just from that alone. Does he want the game to, like, send a trophy to his house? Like...
world or seeing any kind of other kind of enemies? Was it really ultimately worth it to spend hours of time trying to beat one boss? Probably not. You may find yourself challenged and intrigued and hooked on this style of gameplay. And if you are, I hope that I opened your eyes to a game that maybe you might have glossed over or never heard of if you hadn't checked out this video otherwise. Alright everyone, that is it for my impressions on Fury. What did you think? Leave a comment on the video. Certainly there's a lot of people that are angry at me for rage quitting the game, which I didn't do. I simply just lost my patience and didn't want to waste more time. But I can understand.
You did rage quit the game. You got angry. Oh my god, this guy, dude.
When people are seeing me play a game, sometimes they get upset if I don't finish it. You can go ahead and vent your frustrations if you'd like, or let me know, do you like this style of game? Is this your particular cup of tea? And do you think that a game like this
and that part was that's a load of shit, because you know, if you vent that thing, he probably just said that so he can know who to block on YouTube. Like, oh, shadow ban him. My account got shadow banned on this channel. So there you go.
only boss fights can hold water in 2016, or should it have been a little bit more elaborated like I suggested in my video? Let me know in the comments. Please also check the video description for a link to my raw gameplay of Fury over on my gameplay channel.
Yeah, like, I'm sure if you comment, he's gonna read them. I'm sure he will.
Channel DSP Gaming, as well as many other things such as a link to a Loot Crate discount code and my Patreon. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time on KOGaming.
I guess there's Loot Crate discounts now. Like, it's like, oh, you get a discount. Like, you can just say Loot Crate. Because everyone, oh, whatever. Alright, that's the end. But as a bonus, because, actually, hold on, let's check the time. 39 minutes. Fuck it, let's just do Ghostbusters. I'm just... Why not?
What's up, everyone? Phil here for KOGaming, and right now everyone is rife with controversy and debate regarding this new Ghostbusters reboot that took a tried-and-true comedy franchise from the 1980s and has completely restarted it with 4 modern-day female comedians. Of course, there's screams of sexism and all kinds of unfair criticism and all kinds of things regarding the movie. And a lot of people are afraid that this movie is actually going to ruin that Ghostbusters franchise that's been known as an American classic for the greater part of 30 years. However, I am here to tell you that it is not this movie, no matter how bad or good it could possibly be, that will ruin the Ghostbusters franchise, because today I had the ultimate...
Did he even see the movie? That's a big statement for someone who hasn't seen the movie yet.
...displeasure of playing the movie tie-in game, Ghostbusters, and boy, if there has ever been a black hole of gaming, I think I've looked into its dark fucking heart. Now, traditionally, when you get a movie tie-in video game, you don't expect much. You think, oh, it's probably just going to be a cheap cash grab, or it's going to be a game that really doesn't have significant gameplay, but at least usually it either does something, whether it's a standalone game that really doesn't add anything to the movie, or it's a really crappy game that actually does have some kind of tie or supplementary materials that have to do with that subject matter of the movie. You can usually get something positive out of the experience. After playing Ghostbusters for 3.5 hours, I am here to tell you there is nothing positive about this game.
You know what I realized with his reviews now that's kind of funny is that his reviews have become everything he hated. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. He shat on reviewers for not finishing the game, and he didn't finish this game, and he's reviewing it. He has a strong bias when he does these reviews. Like, it's just... silly. It's silly.
Boring, it's repetitive, it's incredibly unoriginal. They couldn't even bother to get anyone from the cast of the new movie to do any kind of work on the game. And although there are some pretty weak ties to the new movie reboot, it's certainly nothing to write home about, and it's absolutely no reason to purchase the game. Let's begin to systematically take apart Ghostbusters 2016. First off, as I've already mentioned, this game does not even feature the 4 new female Ghostbusters from the reboot movie, but instead introduces a new cast of characters, 2 pretty generic males, one having red hair and a red beard, and being a more burly type, while the other one having an almost hipster-like douchebag haircut.
Wow.
And they both have a lot of silly...
hipster douchebag-like haircut.
quips that they say during the gameplay. There's also 2 female characters, one blonde who looks kind of like almost a punk rocker with a skull around her neck, and more of a nerdy African American girl. They're not too bad looking, but at the same time, who the hell...
Oh, that's racist, DSP. How do you know she's from Africa? She could be from Jamaica. That's...
hell are they? And that's immediately a mystery as you boot up Ghostbusters for the first time. It's absolutely never explained who these 4 Ghostbusters are. Or did all of a sudden, after the events of this reboot movie, did they start franchising out the business and this is one of those groups? Who knows? And honestly, who cares? Because it's not going to matter once you start playing the game. In fact, as soon as the game starts, you start hearing problems. And by hearing, I mean the volume level. The cutscenes of this game play incredibly loudly, while the actual in-game gameplay is incredibly low. The game sounds like it was designed by 2 completely different dev teams who weren't using the same pair of headphones and have the volume levels all over the place. So I found myself during the course of playing this game going up and down on the volume knob to avoid blowing out my ears, and also just being able to hear the actual
Wow.
gameplay and dialogue. It's
Okay.
ridiculous that in this day and age you can't get a video game where they can't even get the volume levels right. But that's not even the start of it. The intro cutscene introduces these 4 new Ghostbusters, says that the city is being haunted by ghosts. Incidentally, these ghosts that are brought up in these intro single frame of animation cutscenes apparently have appeared in this reboot movie because they actually make direct references to when the ladies ran into them during the course of the said movie, but now they're actually haunting different locations. So it's going to be your job as a new set of 4 Ghostbusters to go to these locations, kill hordes and hordes of repetitive enemies and ghosts, finally get to that boss, bust them, and then head home for a job well done. Now, each of the 4 selectable Ghostbusters actually have unique abilities and guns. For example, the big, burly, red-headed guy has a chain gun that can shoot pretty quickly and actually does a lot of damage, but while the black-haired girl actually has a shotgun that has a bit of range, but unfortunately doesn't do much damage. So yes, each Ghostbuster actually will be a little bit different when it comes to the gameplay mechanics. They also have a grenade that they each throw that has a different ability. Some of them will stun enemies and slow them down, while others will do damage over time. And ultimately, as you play through the game, you're going to probably want to try out each of the Ghostbusters to see which one fits your combat style the best. But there's a problem with that, because you can only play as one of the Ghostbusters per each round. And so, what's going to happen ultimately is you'll play through the round, get to the end, gain experience points for killing these waves and waves of repetitive enemies, and then you'll actually be able to level up that character, upgrading things such as the damage for their weapon or their maximum health. And that's all well and good, except you've only played as one of the Ghostbusters during the entire stage. Which means, if in the next stage you want to pick a different Ghostbuster, guess what? They didn't get any experience points for that last level that you just played. Therefore, they're lower level than who you just used, so you're either forced to nerf yourself every single match if you want to switch between the 4 Ghostbusters and pick a weaker fighter than you should be playing with, or you're actually forced to use the same Ghostbuster in every single stage so that you can retain all of your upgrades, but then you're only seeing 1/4 of the capabilities of this Ghostbusting team. So just the game design innately from the start is flawed.
That's not that big of a deal, because why would the experience of one Ghostbuster trickle over to the other? That doesn't really make sense. So it's fine that the experience is locked to that character.
Gameplay is absolutely nothing to write home about. It's a pretty standard top-down style shooter where you'll be wandering around these preset maps, killing waves and waves of repetitive enemies. And when I say repetitive, I mean it. Whether it's the disembodied skull, the endless hordes of zombies that I didn't know even
would have probably sold more if it was $20. $10 to $20, I think it would have been fine. $50, I think, is a little bit pushing it.
Existed in the Ghostbusters universe. That's pretty damned creepy. There's also going to be these possessed books that are coming after you. Eventually there'll be things that kind of add a little bit of variety, like fish, and every once in a while you'll fight a more powerful enemy ghost that's basically a mini boss, like the Zool dogs from the original Ghostbusters movie, or a really generic humanoid who usually will have some kind of a melee attack and just be a damage sponge. But the bottom line is the gameplay here is incredibly repetitive, and after you've played one single stage of this Ghostbusters game, you'll have basically seen the gameplay for the entire game. It's wash, rinse, and repeat. Shoot the living shit out of everything, using your left thumbstick to control your movement, your right thumbstick to aim in a direction, and holding down the right trigger to fire your weapon. Every once in a while, your weapon will get a fully kind of heat meter, and then you have to press R1 to release the heat so that you can actually keep firing without overheating. If you do overheat, you have to wait a few seconds for that weapon to power down and then power back up, so you got to be careful managing that heat meter. And then of course you've got your grenade, which you can throw to do an area of effect attack, as I've already described. And there's one other mechanic, a dodge, which you can use to dodge back and forth and try to get away from ghosts. And that's it. The only difference is that every once in a while, one of those mini-boss style enemies will actually need to be caught with a trap, meaning once you've shot it enough, it'll have a special meter that appears above. Then you press an L1 button to switch over to your tried and true proton pack, the traditional weapon of the Ghostbusters. You'll shoot this ghost while holding down a direction on your right thumbstick. While you do that, you'll eventually get another prompt called a slam. After you slam this ghost 2 or 3 times, you'll finally be able to throw out a trap, and now you have to mash the X button an insane amount of times to get some kind of a point bonus to catch that ghost, and then finally afterwards you'll be able to progress on. That is it. That is the entirety of the gameplay of Ghostbusters. There is never a new element that's added in. You don't get new weapons or abilities over the course of the game. You simply just get stat boosts through the upgrading system. So once you've played that intro stage, you know exactly what to expect for the entirety of the game. It's that much of a repetitive grind. And just to give some perspective on how much content is actually in the game, there's an intro stage that's about 10 minutes long that introduces the game mechanics and a ghost from the actual reboot movie as a boss fight. And then after that, there are 5 chapters, each of which have 2 individual stages that last roughly around 30 minutes each. So you're going to talk around maybe 5 to 5.5 hours of gameplay. The only additional gameplay you'll actually get out of Ghostbusters is if you look for all the secrets, of which there are 4 on each stage. Now, what does that mean? Well, you have something called a PKE meter, which means you press up on the D-pad, you'll be scanning around looking for hidden items in the environment. Sometimes it'll be a health power-up that gets your full health. Sometimes it'll simply just be additional points, and that's pretty much it. Well, every once in a while, you'll actually be able to open a secret door that then allows you to go into a secret room and pick up some kind of a device that I have no idea what it is, and it's certainly never explained in the game. If you actually collect all of these for the 2 stages of a chapter, you'll unlock a remixed edition of one of the stages, which adds a little bit of replayability and additional gameplay. But the bottom line is the game is such a repetitive grind, you're not going to give a shit about actually going through, because you're just doing the same thing, fighting the same enemies, the same repetitive grinding gameplay, the same boring bullshit over and over and over. And maybe if there was some kind of an awesome unlock at the end of the rainbow, or if maybe the game actually ramped up the challenge and made it interesting with a variety of enemies, maybe you would want to continue, but it never, ever offers any of that. The entire game is just the same combat and an endless loop. You're gonna feel like you're stuck in Groundhog Day, the movie, another Bill Murray classic, where you just simply can't get out of it. You just have to keep doing it over and over. And in some games, you'd say, wow, every stage is a half an hour long. That's actually pretty awesome. In Ghostbusters, you're like, I can't wait for this fucking stage to end so that I can either take a break or go do something else for a bit, because I am so goddamned bored at this stupid repetitive game. I can't believe they took literally no time.
This is seriously the most phoned-in review. He's just hamming it up. This is like the most ham Phil's ever
Kind
done.
of creativity to make this thing, and it just doesn't make any sense. And as if just to make matters worse, just to stick it to you even more that you bought this game, the game has repetitive lines that the 4 Ghostbusters say during the stages that are going to drive you absolutely nuts and are obviously written for about a 5th grade level, like, I'm the MVP of EVP, or, you gotta slam 'em, or, ooh, you got slimed, oh, I hope slime's good for your skin. And just really cheesy, unpassable stuff that should not be present in any kind of a video game in 2016. And then in addition to all of that, as I was playing the game and I was incredibly bored, yes, game bugs. I ended up going into a secret room with an enemy, and the enemy got stuck. I was unable to catch that enemy, and therefore I was unable to complete that room. And if I wanted the additional bonus leveling up points or whatever, I wouldn't have been able to achieve them. I'm sure if I played even longer, I would have run into very similar kinds of bugs. So even for a game that has no originality, insane repetition, it's not even polished enough to not make you incredibly annoyed by the dialogue and incredibly annoyed by the bugs that they put into it, it's completely unacceptable. And then, the final crippling nail in this game's coffin, as if it weren't bad enough. If you could even convince a friend of yours to buy this game along with you, guess what? There's no online co-op. The game is couch co-op only, meaning you'd actually have to convince someone to come over your house and play this piece of shit with.
I love how you say that you have to convince your friend to come over to your house. If you have a friend you shouldn't have to convince them to come over your house. You should be like, hey man, wanna hang out? Yeah, dude, let's hang out. And then bam, they come to your house and you hang out and you have a good time. Why would you have to convince them to come to your house? This is what?
With you in order to actually get a cooperative experience. For a game that's sold for a whopping $50. I'm going to repeat myself here.
Why?
$50 for this Ghostbusters game.
Dude, that's not even good editing. He should have said like 50, then 50 drops. Then he should have said fucking, and then put fucking there. Dollars, and put that there, because there's no need to censor at this point, because you're putting fucking in right there. So, excuse me, I don't know why he I don't get him.
To not have an online functionality, to be this repetitive, to have game bugs, to be an annoying piece of crap that's only 5 to 6 hours long is a laughing stock. This game is a fucking embarrassment. It's a fucking blemish on the face of gaming as a whole. This game is what is wrong with all of modern gaming. Let's make a game.
This game, not Homefront the Revolution, not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not, there was another one, I'm pretty sure there was another one, but no, this game, this is the game, guys. This is what's wrong with modern games, guys. This game perfectly sums it up.
Solely to capitalize on the hype and controversy of a reboot movie coming.
Hype and controversy, like what controversy? Why would they? The kind of controversy the movie has is just fucking
Out this summer that's going to barely have any ties whatsoever to it because we couldn't even bother getting the fucking actresses from the movie to be in the game. Let's charge $50 to fool people into thinking it's a full-fledged game and throw the same repetitive 30 minutes of gameplay at them for about 6 fucking times until they get so bored that they want to commit Harry Carey. In fact, I would rather be dead than fucking play this game any further.
Wow. So he's saying that people who play this game would want to kill themselves. That is the most overreacting thing you can say. Like he
I would rather have Slimer eat a fucking dozen chili dogs and take an ectoplasmic dump into my fucking mouth than play another moment of the Ghostbusters video game. I'm disgusted. I can't believe how bad this.
That is just the ultimate cringe. Honestly, that's a genuine reaction you just got. Like, oh my god, holy fuck! That I really never seen anything that made me just react in that kind of way in years, ever. I would probably go out of my way and say that I doubt, out of all things I've cringed, I've never heard such a terrible joke with a terrible execution with stock sounds. Like he went to like a territory that made me almost, oh god, I don't even want to finish what like he almost made Big Bang Theory seem funny, and that is just, no, you can't fucking do that. Jesus.
Fucking game is, it's a atrocity that they would charge $50. This game isn't worth $10. It's that fucking bad. I give Ghostbusters from 2016 a 2 out of fucking 10. It's a fucking stinky piece of fucking shit. Don't play it. Don't
avoid like the dead. You shouldn't avoid like the plague, or avoid like the, I don't know.
Talk about it, pretend like it doesn't exist, and maybe it'll go away. Alright, everyone.
Of course it's gonna go away. It's a fucking, oh my god.
Well, and that is it for my review of Ghostbusters. I hope that you enjoyed it, and hopefully you won't play the fucking game. Please, if you like this video, spread.
Wow, this is such a terrible review. Let's look at the comments. Harry Carey, you mean this is so funny. This looks boring too. Oh my god, no. Boring. Forgot to correct it. $50 if you guys want. Okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm done here. There's really no other video I want to do. I for a while I thought I was gonna do the inside game review, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that after this. I wasn't even supposed to cover this Ghostbusters review, and I did it anyway. I'm a fucking idiot. Thanks for watching. By the way, as I said, send your condolences. I mean, this guy died, okay? This guy died during this recording. It was live. He died, and now his brother is alone. He's alone. I mean, he has the Athena statue next to him, but he doesn't have his brother anymore that he used to play ball with. Now he's dead. He's dead. Like, you're telling me you can survive being disembodied like this? This is tragic. Tragic thing to happen. Just post in your comments your condolences. Send this guy out. Send him up. Give him a send off, guys. Give him, buy a 40 and pour one for our homie. This guy is like 2 years old. He was 2 years old when this happened. R.I.P. dude. Goodbye.